Poor girl, rejected at blind date for being too fat, until a single dad at the next table walked over and said, it was a Friday night in a cozy little restaurant downtown, the kind filled with soft jazz, warm lights, and the scent of grilled salmon and red wine. Emily sat at a corner table, nervously stirring her drink. She'd spent hours getting ready, soft curls in her hair, a deep blue dress that complemented her brown eyes, and a hopeful smile she practiced in the mirror more times than she'd admit. Tonight was supposed to be special, her first blind date in over 2 years. She had met Daniel through a dating app. His messages were charming, his photos polished, and for once, Emily let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she was enough. But when Daniel walked in, his face shifted the moment he saw her. "Emily?" he asked, his tone sharp as if confirming a mistake. She smiled nervously. "Yeah, hi, Daniel." He sat down hesitantly, looked her up and down, and sighed. "You don't look like your photos." Emily's heart sank. "They're recent. Maybe just the lighting." He cut her off. "No offense, but I was expecting someone more fit. You said you go to the gym, right?" The words stung like cold rain. Emily laughed awkwardly, trying to keep her voice steady. "I do. I'm just not a model, I guess." Daniel leaned back, unbothered. "You seem nice, but I don't think this'll work. I'm into girls who take better care of themselves." He stood up, muttered something about wasting his time, and walked out, leaving Emily sitting there, cheeks burning, eyes fixed on the flickering candle between her hands. Around her, the restaurant buzzed with quiet conversations and clinking glasses. But to her, it all faded into a dull hum. She swallowed the tears threatening to fall, whispering to herself, "Don't cry here, not here." Then came a small voice from the next table. "Daddy, why is that lady sad?" Emily blinked and turned slightly. A little boy, maybe 6 or 7, was sitting with his father, a man in his mid-30s with kind eyes and the gentle exhaustion of someone who's been through a lot, but still smiles anyway. He leaned down to his son and whispered, "Maybe she's having a tough day. Buddy?" Emily looked away, embarrassed, but then she heard a chair move. The man stood up, walked over, and stopped beside her table. "Hey," he said softly. "I couldn't help overhearing. Are you okay?" Emily tried to smile. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just a bad date." He nodded, then offered a warm grin. "Sounds like his loss." Before she could respond, the little boy piped up from their table. "You can sit with us if you want. Daddy says nobody should eat alone." The father chuckled. "He's got a point." Something in his voice, calm, genuine, unjudging, made Emily's guard drop. She hesitated, then joined them. The boy's name was Liam, and he was full of energy, asking her endless questions about her favorite colors, cartoons, and whether she liked dinosaurs. His father, Mark, was a single dad who worked as a firefighter. His wife had passed away 3 years ago, and raising Liam alone had taught him more about patience, compassion, and strength than he ever thought possible. As the night went on, laughter replaced the ache in Emily's chest. Mark didn't look at her like she was too much of anything. He just listened. When dessert came, Liam proudly announced, "Daddy, I think she's prettier than Mommy was." Mark blushed, embarrassed. "Liam!" Emily laughed for the first time that night. A real, unguarded laugh that reached her eyes. When it was time to leave, Mark walked her to her car. The air was crisp, the street quiet except for the soft glow of passing headlights. "Thank you," she said. "You and Liam, you turned my night around." He smiled. "You deserve someone who sees your worth the moment they meet you, not after they measure it." Emily felt something shift in her heart, a warmth she hadn't felt in years. Before parting, Mark added, "Liam's got soccer practice tomorrow morning, but maybe we could all grab coffee after? If you'd like." She nodded, smiling through the tears she'd been holding back. "I'd like that." Weeks turned into months. That one broken evening became the start of something unexpectedly beautiful. Emily and Mark grew close, not through grand gestures, but through small acts of kindness. A shared coffee, a walk in the park, helping Liam build a Lego castle that always seemed to fall apart. And one day, when Liam proudly introduced Emily at school as Dad's favorite person, Mark squeezed her hand and whispered, "See? Sometimes rejection just redirects you where you're meant to be." From that night on, Emily's world began to change. Not in some big movie-style moment, but in quiet, ordinary ways that felt like sunlight finally touching places long forgotten. She wasn't checking her phone for Daniel's messages anymore. She wasn't obsessing over diets or mirrors or filters. Instead, she found herself smiling at the smallest things, like the way Liam would run toward her shouting, "Miss Emily!" whenever she stopped by. And Mark, he never made her feel like she had to earn affection. He just showed up every time with that calm, steady kindness that felt like home. Scene cue, park, laughter, children playing in the background. One afternoon, they sat together watching Liam chase a soccer ball across the grass. Mark smiling. He's terrible at soccer, but he thinks he's playing in the World Cup. Emily laughing. Confidence is half the game. Mark looked at her for a moment, really looked at her. The kind of look that isn't about appearances, recognition. Mark, softly. You know, when I first lost my wife, I didn't think I could ever love anyone again. Then I realized love doesn't disappear. It just waits for the right person to walk in. Emily turned to him, eyes glistening. Emily, quietly. I think I stopped believing in love, too. Until that night. Music shifts, a gentle swell of strings, emotional tone. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and every small moment between them began to build something unspoken, something real. Mark would bring coffee to her office on rainy mornings. Emily would help Liam with his homework, her laughter filling the small apartment that had once felt so empty. It wasn't perfect. They both carried scars. But somehow, those scars fit together like puzzle pieces. Scene cue, restaurant. Familiar soft jazz plays, mirroring the first scene. Almost a year after their first meeting, Mark invited Emily back to that same restaurant, the place where she'd been rejected, humiliated and left alone. Only this time, she wasn't alone. Liam was with them, proudly wearing a little button-up shirt, swinging his legs beneath the table. Mark reached across and took her hand. Mark, smiling. I wanted to come back here because this place isn't where something ended. It's where something began. Emily's heart fluttered. Emily, you really know how to turn pain into poetry. Mark chuckled, shaking his head. No, just gratitude. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Emily froze. Inside was a simple, elegant ring. Nothing flashy, nothing over the top. Just real, Mark, emotion thick in his voice. Emily, you walked into our lives when we needed hope the most. You loved us both, not perfectly but honestly, and that's more than I ever dreamed of. Will you marry me? Tears streamed down her cheeks. She looked at Liam, whose eyes were wide with excitement. Liam, grinning. Say yes, Miss Emily. Say yes. Emily laughed through her tears, her heart overflowing. Emily. Yes, 1,000,000 times. Your AC music rises, cinematic swell, warm light imagery. They hugged, all three of them, right there in that same restaurant. And for the first time in years, Emily didn't feel too fat. She didn't feel not enough. She just felt loved. Completely. Narrator, soft, heartfelt. Sometimes, life takes us through heartbreak not to punish us, but to prepare us. To remind us that the people meant for us will never make us feel small. They'll show up when we least expect it, at the next table, with a gentle